Well, I may be bad, but I'm perfectly good at it. Sex in the air, I don't care. I love the smell of it. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but chains and whips excite me. No.
Anyway, we're my God, I'm JD, and that was Ben. Whatever he was doing. Just a fair warning. It's not gonna. Wait, Ben. It's not gonna be NSFW, right? It's only gonna be like the first 10 minutes or something.
It's only gonna be the first 10 minutes. My topic has nothing to do with this, but we just mentioned 50 Shades of Grey before we started recording, which is an awful movie. Really, nothing happens in it. Christian Grey is very clearly just like abusive and manipulative. It's not a good film. I think the kink people were pissed off by it. I think most people were pissed off by it. It was very like, okay, say here's an NSFW thing. A little bit. They show a lot of bush. Like, like we live in the era of HBO, right?
Yeah.
We've seen there's like plenty of shows that show like peen and butt and but this one, it was really like bush. That was like the payoff you get, where it's like, I don't know if that's like just like, yeah, look at that right above area. It's very hairy, and it's like that's the
Ben, for an NSFW section, you have said so far peen, butt, bush, above area. So
yeah. So see, I'm trying to be professional. We won't get demonetized.
Since this is gonna be a video as well. I think I don't even know if this is real, but when I used to listen to the McElroys, they talked about like watching. I don't know who it was. Talked about like watching 50 Shades, and then like the second movie. Okay. I trust you. Are the Dom jeans real? Are like, does he wear jeans?
The Dom. Oh yes, there is like a scene where they're gonna do like the kinky scene, right? And he's like got his whip and he like whips it like that, like with like a little overhand, and that's like it. He does it 3 times, like little taps, and then he like jumps on top of her and it's like missionary style, and he's wearing jeans. And you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Okay, the jeans are real. Right now, the jeans are real.
Do the jeans show up in the next movies?
I don't know. That's why I couldn't tell you if it was like the second one or the first one.
That's his trademark.
I've never seen.
It was weird. Yeah. So like he switches because he's like in a business suit, right? Like the context of the scene is like, I've had a hard work a day. Wait. Day at work. You know what I'm saying there. You get me. And he's like, I'm going to take it out on you, basically, right? And which is like, that's not good. That's not like a healthy thing. And then he switches from like his business suit to just jeans, which is a hell of a move. Yeah. There's a New Zealand podcast called The Worst Idea of All Time.
I love them.
You know them? I was like, I would love for them to watch all of the 50 Shades movies 50 times.
I like them too much, I think.
You think that would be too much for them?
They did the Sex and the City one, and then they did another one, and then they do that every year with the McElroys, where they do Paul Blart every Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They maybe like every month, or like every quarter they rewatch it.
Yeah. Their current thing is like the Fast and Furious thing. I think that's still going on, where they're like doing a countdown. So it's like 9 times watching Fast 9. 8 times watching Fast 8, 7 times, so on and so forth. If
we did that, you and I did that, what would be the movie?
Yeah. I mean, we can do 50 Shades of Grey 50 times.
50 times?
50 times. And then we have to do the other ones 50 times too. So we'll have 55 Shades, 55 Grey, 55 Shades, 55 Freed, 55 Shades of, I don't know the third one.
I don't know if I can make it through a single. I struggle through like, okay, I am very bad at like watching like, this is not a romantic comedy from what I'm garnering from you and the rest of the world. I can't even make it through a romantic comedy that has like a secondhand embarrassment scene without taking a walk. I don't think I can finish this in one day.
It's like very cringy. Like it's a very aggressively like millennial movie, I think. And also I just kept thinking like, like John Waters, right? Like if John Waters made this would be like incredible because it would be so camp and so like over the top disgusting, but it's so like tame. It's just like like he's a creep and like a bad person, but it's not like entertaining at all. It was like an incredibly boring movie.
I think in the John Waters one, the Dom jeans would be much more iconic.
Oh yeah, we would all be loving the Dom jeans. That'd be like a whole. You'd be reenacting.
They would be booty cut.
The Dom jeans. Yes, they would be.
Oh my god!
Yeah. It'd be a ballroom fixture. If instead, so John Waters, get on it. We need the remake.
We need that. Instead, we got whatever you ended up watching.
Yeah. Which the EP was telling me that like the director is also problematic of the 50 Shades of Grey. Like, I guess she is with Aaron Taylor Johnson.
It's that lady.
She's that lady.
Oh my god! Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know this.
Yeah. So there's like a whole power dynamics thing that is kind of gross between the movie and also potentially her personal life.
Gross late. I'm taking notes. So far my notes are the jeans are real and gross director leave. Great start. It's not relevant to everybody else. It is the 19th of August.
Yeah, you'll hear this in 5
months. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe because it's us, like 50 Shades of Grey will like come back into the zeitgeist. We'll be like, once again, genius moment.
I think that it's possible, yeah. Also, like, I thought it was Dakota Fanning because it was Dakota, but it's just another Dakota. There's other Dakotas.
What's her name?
I think it's like Dakota Johnson.
Oh, tell me why if you just said Dakota Fanning, I'd still see Dakota Johnson's face, but then I'd be like, yeah, that's her name.
Oh. Yeah, right. Interchangeable Dakotas, really. I'm just kind of like,
Oh, Dakota Fanning.
One or the other.
Okay.
What is it? Okay, who is Dakota Fanning before we start?
Okay, wait. Shut up.
Pop quiz.
She was in Twilight, wasn't she?
Was she?
I've never seen Twilight, but I swear to God,
you've never seen Twilight, Jade? I think we have to watch Twilight at least. Like that could fit. That fits. 50 Shades is also a Twilight fanfic, so
anyway,
it all comes together.
Dakota Fanning, she's in that movie with Denzel Washington, and The Alienist. The Alienist. Yeah, that one was weird. I think it was maybe on HBO as well. What Coraline? She was the Coraline.
Oh, she was the Coraline. Okay,
I remember that. That's about as far as I can get.
I'm realizing I don't have a face in my mind for.
She's
Dakota
just like blonde,
Fanning.
like deeply. I don't know if she's deeply blonde.
I'm gonna have to look this up.
She's so blonde.
Dakota. I'm sorry for my shotgun keyboard.
And her sister Elle Fanning, equally blonde.
Yeah, it's a different Dakota. Okay, so now my apologies to the Dakotas out there. Dakota Johnson, Dakota Fanning. You guys are different people.
Dakota Johnson. Let me just. Okay, that's her. Yeah.
That's her. Yeah. Which one looks more like a Dakota, though? JD is frowning pretty intensely here for the people not watching.
Maybe like the Johnson one.
Yeah, I feel like that's more.
Yeah, because her Dakota Fanning, the blonde one. Oh wait, was she in a scary movie?
Dakota Johnson? No, I've never seen a scary movie.
No, it's a scary movie. It's a scary movie.
Oh, like an actual.
No, that's not. No. Oh, she was in Push. Have you ever seen the movie Push?
No, not seen Push.
I don't know how to explain it.
Is that the Jason Statham one?
No, it's Chris Evans. They have like special powers and
Captain
you
America.
can push through time or something. It's like time magic thing.
Oh shit. Okay, you can push through time. Well, that brings me to my topic.
Go.
Look at what we did.
Oh my god.
Segue.
Big brain moment.
Yeah, JD. So
you're welcome.
You're welcome moment.
For the segue.
As you know, I'm talking time travel today. How do you feel about time travel?
I think
would you do it?
I think I would only go forward.
You'd only go forward. Interesting.
Or maybe to like me related time specific moments, right? Never world responsibility, like people who are like, I would do this and X and X. I think that's so much of a burden and so much of like a possibility of fucking shit up that I am at this point like, no, I'm just gonna go to like the day that I decided to like re-bleach my blonde hair, and then like the next shower where it like all just came up, I just be like, bestie, that's wrong. Don't do it. It's all gonna come off. You will get like a head shave after it, but like which you serve, but like no. So
you weren't ready for that. You were not planning that head shave. That was an impromptu.
Yeah, and it was because it also was, I don't know. time travel to me feels like the same thing I feel about like the Matrix simulation kind of thing, where it's like,
yeah,
obviously there's a lot more feelings towards like time travel, like what you want to do personally and then for like the world. But like,
right.
like what is required of time travel? How heavy is that? And do you even want to go when you have that ability? Do you want to go anywhere?
Right. Yeah, I watched some videos on it, and so let's set the stage here. This whole segment is going to be an idiot talking about something very complicated. But there was a couple of videos where they were talking about like the grandfather paradox. You know that one, right? Where like you go back in time and you kill your grandfather before your parents got born, and therefore you never would have been able to go back, right? So like, how does that resolve itself? And I think it was like a physicist guy, and he was basically saying like the nature of time as we understand it, there's like a good chance that it's kind of self-correcting. So you would not be able to kill your grandfather. Like you could try, if you went back in time, you could try, but like things would align in such a way that it wouldn't work. Like it seems like he was basically like, you wouldn't be able to change it because it's kind of just already happened. So therefore it would be fruitless to try. That's crazy. Which I thought was like interesting. And again, I was just like, whoa, that's crazy, man. But so maybe there's not as much weight if you can't actually accomplish things.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. Like, if I did go back in time to kill my grandparents, like the second I like him, I'm like out. Like, I don't even get to like experience the after of that. Like, wouldn't I just like bleep out the second he's like beep or some shit like that?
That's the theory, right? Is like you would never have done, but then also you never would have done it. So therefore, your grandfather would be fine because you didn't go back in time to kill him because you didn't exist. Yeah. So, we're not the only people that have thought about time travel, right? A lot of people online think about time travel, and there's a lot of people that have claimed to be time travelers on the internet. There's, the ones that come from the future, and usually they're kind of posting predictions about what's going to happen. There's like a kind of recent one is the X user at Adam Leoxide, who predicted on February 4th, 2022, that Queen Elizabeth was going to die on September 8th. Adam Leoxide describes themselves as merely just a person with fantastical technology. And they also predicted that the Earth will be, quote, completely engulfed in flames on March 17th, 2062. But let's be real, they were not the only ones tossing out dates on when a 96-year-old lady was going to die. Logan Smith at Logan Smith 526 also correctly guessed that the Queen would die on September 8th. Most likely some other people would have as well. A lot of people were tweeting, a lot of people were speculating, like this is going to be the day, right? People were just trying to, not tweeting.
Sorry, no. I have blue sky. Yeah. People have been calling it zeeting.
Zeeting? A lot of people were throwing around some date zeeties on when the Queen was going to die. Also, with the way that climate change is going, the fact that shit's going to suck in 2062 is not like a mind-blowing
How old will you be?
Right?
Yeah.
Will I be? I'll be in my 50s. How about you?
You're 50?
I'll be in my 50s. It's 2050, 62? What's that, 40 years from now?
My brother will be 62.
No, I'll be in my 60s. I'll be 62 then.
No, you won't. Our producer will be 62.
Okay, so I'll be 66.
Okay, I'll be 68.
Yeah. Okay. That's a long life. We all have had long enough lives.
Okay, let me at least reach 69. Let me reach 69, first of all.
Nice. Yeah. Well, not if Adam Leoxide is right, but we'll see. That's not terrible, though. 60s is not bad. 60s is all right. Yeah. And there's plenty of other self-proclaimed visitors from the future. You got John Tabor back in 2000. You got Willie 2024 in 2008. And they both are deserving of a deep dive on their own. But generally speaking, when someone's coming from the future, they're trying to make predictions and reveal how the future is going to turn out, right? And they've been done with varying degrees of accuracy. And then there's the people that come from the past. I'm going to focus on one of these for today's main story. So our story is set in Kyiv, Ukraine on April 3rd, 2006. Witnesses notice a confused, anxious man wandering the streets of Kyiv. He looked out of place. He was wearing clothes that looked new, but seemed 50 years out of style. He also had a vintage camera around his neck. He was asking for directions to a street that no one had heard of. Witnesses reported that they were concerned that steampunks had made it to Kyiv. Someone eventually told the police about a disoriented man wandering the streets. If the story took place in the U.S., we know where this would be going, but it's not. So the police asked for the man's ID, and were handed a piece of paper from the Soviet era with the name Sergei Ponomarenko. Sergei's identification said that he was born in 1932, but the man standing in front of the police looked to be in his mid-20s. He looked the same as the picture on his ID, which had been issued in 1958. The officers asked Sergei what date he thought it was, and he responded that as far as he knew, it was April 23rd, 1958. The police give the option of arrest or being brought to a psychiatric facility, and Sergei reluctantly agrees to get seen by a psychiatrist. Arriving at the psychiatric facility did not seem to calm Sergei down. If anything, staff reported that he seemed more agitated and anxious as he entered, and he seemed especially perplexed by the staff's cell phones and computers. Sergei met with a psychiatrist who asked, "If you're from the 1950s, how did you end up here?" Sergei responded, quote, "It was daytime and I wanted to go for a walk in the city. I took out my camera, but when I left my house, I saw a strange object that had a bell shape. And it was very strange, and it was flying in a strange way. It is difficult to explain what I was seeing. It might be better to look at the photos from my camera." The doctor took the camera and recognized that it was an old Yoshima Flex, a genuine antique. So genuine that it had a film that had not been made since the 1970s. So it could not be developed by normal means. The doctor contacted a photography expert who took the camera and developed the film. The expert noticed that the film was manufactured in 1956, but it seemed to be in perfect condition, as if it had just been purchased. The roll was developed, and it was full of pictures from Kiev's past. All the photos appeared to come from the 1950s. They were all mostly normal photos, right? Just street scenes, buildings, Sergei with his girlfriend at the time, hanging out. There were even some with Sergei in the exact same outfit that he'd been found in. And just as Sergei suggested, the last photo showed a bell-shaped UFO floating above the streets of Kiev. After seeing these photos, the doctor was just more confused, but Sergei stuck to his story. It was late at this point, so they decided to call it a day. Sergei was sent to a room in the clinic to sleep for the night, and they agreed that they would continue to try to figure this out in the morning. But Sergei disappeared overnight. There were bars on the windows, and Sergei was never seen leaving his room on the clinic's cameras. There was no way to explain it. Investigators working on the case did find an old missing person case from 1958 and another one in the 1970s, both involving a Sergei Ponomarenko. They also found that the girl in the photos, his girlfriend at the time, later his wife, was still alive and living in Kiev. Investigators met with her, and she confirmed that Sergei had gone missing for a couple of days in 1958, but he'd returned. She also told investigators that he had disappeared again, this time seemingly permanently, in the 1970s. She did hear from him one more time after the second disappearance, receiving a photograph in the mail of a now middle-aged Sergei showing him in Kiev in 2015. The skyline of the future stretched out behind him. Kiev would become a sea of skyscrapers, some of which looked suspiciously like the Empire State Building. The final note from Sergei promised that he would be back soon. So that's the information that we have. What do you think?
It feels so too good to be true.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that for sure.
Because, like, he had his own evidence. He had the same exact outfit on. His lady was still alive. She got some photos. He disappeared overnight from that locked up place. What's going on, Ben? Reveal it to me now.
He had a UFO photo, everything, right?
Like the little bell-shaped thing that he was talking about. And then the 1970s permanent disappearance where you can't ask Mr. Sergei Shi, any more questions. Tell me the truth.
Hey, it's an incredible experience. It's big if true.
Real big if true.
And, so there's plenty of like online articles that are like, wow, this is amazing. What great evidence. I saw one article that was like, this is the most well-documented case of time travel in history. Right. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. If you look up or come across Sergei Ponomarenko's story, you're going to see photos that show an ID card, the CCTV camera footage, right, with a man in outdated clothes in a medical office. You'll even see footage of a man speaking with a psychiatrist, right? So that's pretty crazy. And you'll also see pictures that appear to be Sergei in the 1950s, as well as a photo of him, middle-aged, older guy, but looks kind of the same in the 2050s, right? But here's the issue with that, is that there's only one source on this, right? This all comes from one thing, and you don't want to guess what that one thing is.
Either Reddit or 4chan.
It's a TV show.
Twilight.
It's a 2011 Ukrainian TV show. I was like,
Twilight's okay.
It's basically, right? It's just like, it's from a show called Aliens. That was a series of like reenactments and like, of alleged alien encounters. But that's it. There's no outside evidence before this story. No one has been able to identify any supporting evidence that does not come directly from the show.
Boo.
Right. Man. yeah, no one's been able to confirm that the guy existed. No one's been able to confirm like there were police files that they described. There's no news stories about it. It all leads back to a show with a disclaimer that reads, quote, any theory and hypothesis proposed cannot be considered to be correct, and further scientific research is required. All scene restorations are based on the statement of, quote, witnesses. There is no conclusive evidence to prove the existence of aliens. Your opinion on this issue is up to you. And there's even like a credited screenwriter, Konstantin Kovridin. Sorry, my Ukrainian friend. So it's the sort of thing where there's not really much to poke holes in the story for, right? It's fiction. It was made up. And it's a solid story. I think it's compelling.
It is. Enough, right? I think my favorite part about it was like, the lady was still alive. She's got photos of him, and he's promising to be back. When? Yeah,
I mean, there's great story beats. Like you're like, wow, I'm really invested in the Sergey guy. He's like out there adventuring through time with aliens. What a sick ass story. Yeah, I mean, like, like the History Channel wishes that any of their bullshit stories had as much staying power. Because this came out in 2011, and it's still like pretty popular, like online time travel discussions, right? Sergei's story relies on aliens to kind of explain the time travel, but I think that Sergei's story fits within the concept of like a time slip. Are you familiar with that concept?
Yes, but from Reddit stories only.
Sure. No, that's a great source. Yeah. For the people that have never heard the term before, basically it's like an accidental trip through time, right? Sometimes forward in time, sometimes backwards. You can think of the Netflix show Dark for all my dark heads out there. But it's not the same thing as like losing time, which is more of like an alien related phenomenon where you feel like, you wake up and 3 days have passed and you didn't realize it. Right. Rather, you could be walking down the street or headed to your kitchen and suddenly consciously you realize that you're in a different era. Right. I think aside from having an alien explanation, Sergei Ponomarenko's story fits better with this kind of accidental trip than an intentional voyage through time. There are truly countless cases of people discussing their own experiences with time slips or other notorious cases of time slips online, right?
Got it.
Great place for it. Yep. So here's one of the most famous cases of time slips, right? It took place in the UK in October of 1957 when 3 Royal Navy cadets were on a map reading exercise. They were asked to navigate 5 miles and return and report on what they observed to confirm that they had completed the assignment. They were meant to pass through the village of Kersey. And they did approach a village where the map said Kersey should be, but things seemed off. As they walked down the main street, they noticed that there were no cars, no phone wires, no street lights, and no noise. It was Sunday morning, but the village seemed completely silent and still. The houses all looked hand-built and not particularly well. The most modern thing on them seemed to be windows. They peered through the windows of a nearby house, and it seemed to be abandoned. They also spotted what looked like a butcher shop and approached. They described what they saw in a later interview with author and paranormal researcher Andrew Mackenzie. Quote, there were no tables or counters, just 2 or 3 whole oxen carcasses that had been skinned and in places were quite green with age. There was a green painted door and windows with smallest glass pane, one at the front and one at the side, rather dirty looking. I remember that as we 3 looked through that window in disbelief at the green and moldy green carcasses, the general feeling certainly was one of disbelief and unreality. Who would believe that in 1957 that the health authorities would allow such conditions? Even though it was an October day, the trees in and around the village were still green. The silence and the emptiness began to spook the cadets, and they decided it was time to leave. As they walked up a hill to return to camp, they heard church bells ring and saw smoke rising from the chimneys of the village. They hadn't seen any smoke while they were in the village, and they also hadn't noticed a church with a bell tower in the town. They reported what they saw to their officers and were told it was strange, but it did sound like they probably made it to Kersey. Time passed, and in the 1980s, 2 of the cadets reconnected over the memory and shared the story with Andrew Mackenzie. Mackenzie looked into the history of Kersey and found that the building they had identified as a butcher shop was in a private residence in the 1950s, but it had been a butcher shop at least as early as the 1790s and had been constructed in the 1300s. Mackenzie also found that the construction of the church bell tower had been halted in the 1340s due to the Black Death. Because of this and the empty state of the village, Mackenzie theorized that the cadets had been transported to the 1420s after the village had been impacted by the plague. But this podcast, so I'm not going to just leave it there. None of the cadets had seen the village before. The account as we have it was made 30 years after the fact. The village is also a remarkably well-preserved medieval village. It dates back to the 900s. It is still used for film and television productions set in the medieval era. Kersey was not actually on the electric grid until the 1950s, and the wires were placed either under the ground or behind buildings so that you wouldn't see them on the main street. That was like a big deal for the Suffolk Preservation Society. That was like a huge controversy. Historian Mike Dash also questioned Andrew Mackenzie's guess that the cadets had been in the village in the 1420s. So Dash cited the fact that windows were expensive luxuries in the Middle Ages, right? Not just like any village would have it. And Mackenzie was like, oh, well, the village can afford windows because the town was very successful from wool money, right? They were big in the wool industry. But Dash points out that Mackenzie is claiming that the town was either abandoned from the Black Death, which took place 70 years before the 1420s, or it was thriving enough to everybody afforded windows and that they had a butcher shop. He flagged that the butcher shop is also something that probably wouldn't happen back in like the 1400s in a small village. Like he points out that like a nearby village, they ate 3 cattle the entire year. That was it. That's all the meat that they ate, right? Meat was something for holy days and festivals. It was not a common enough commodity to support a shop in a medieval village. But it's also not the type of thing where like 3 full ox carcasses would be left to rot. Yeah. So maybe the cadets didn't travel through time. Maybe no one has. But if you look up videos on time slips or read through threads on the topic, there's countless people claiming that it's happened to them, someone in their family, a friend, or a friend of a friend. It's a whole subset of urban legends, and there's a lot more people who think they've experienced a time slip than people who claim to have traveled through time with intention, right? As Mike Dash sees it, a lot of time slip occurrences have some commonalities. Firstly, the participants are aware at the time of the experience that it is unusual. The full strangeness strikes them sometime after. The strangeness that is noticed is generally some form of dissociation, such as unnatural stillness. The experience is immersive. It is not like seeing a vision, it is like being inside of a strange environment, though there is rarely interaction with people within this environment. Historical research after the fact is often used to link the experiences to a historical era or event. And unlike many paranormal events, time slips often involve multiple witnesses, right? So if we keep in mind that a lot of stories about time slips develop and come out a long time, years after the incident, and they often involve discussing the incident with other people and doing research which can alter the perception of how the event actually occurred and how we remember it, we can see that it may not be a rock solid foundation to time slip stories, even if it has multiple witnesses, right? Not every time slip story involves a trip to the past, and it's not always a matter of centuries. Some stories involve people seeing what they later realized were older versions of themselves, or being momentarily transported back to their childhood bedroom in the state it was, 15 years ago. I'm not smart enough to understand, let alone explain, physics explanations on the possibility of actual time travel. Maybe most of these experiences are just in people's heads, moments of dissociation or derealization, making people feel like they've walked into another reality. I was drawn to these stories while researching this episode because I think they differ in flavor from, somebody that claims to be a time traveler. A lot of time traveler stories offer some comfort, even if the time traveler is warning of disasters, that humans eventually find a way to control time. But a lot of these time slip stories help us conceptualize time as it really is, outside of our control, which is a terrifying thing. We experience and tend to conceive of time as a one-way arrow headed towards oblivion. But I think that time slip narratives are an effective way to look at time as theorized by Big Al Einstein, the concept of the block universe, right? This view is also called eternalism in philosophy. That is, that everything that has happened, is happening, or will happen and exists within the block of space-time. Our current moment is no more real than the past or future. All things and all moments are contained within the scope of space-time. So I'm going to quote from Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, where he describes how the Tralfamadorians experience time. And yes, it's a shocker that the white dude is quoting Kurt Vonnegut. Yeah. The most important thing I learned on Tralfamador was that when a person dies, he only appears to die. He is still very much alive in the past, so it is very silly for people to cry at his funeral. All moments, past, present, and future, always have existed, always will exist. The Tralfamadorians can look at all the different moments just the way that we look at a stretch of the Rocky Mountains, for instance. They can see how permanent all these moments are, and they can look at any moment that interests them. It is just an illusion we have here on Earth that one moment follows the other, like beads on a string, and that once a moment is gone, it is gone forever. When a Trafalmadorian sees a corpse, all he thinks is that the dead person is in a bad condition at that particular moment, but that the same person is just fine in plenty of other moments. Now, when I myself hear that somebody is dead, I simply shrug and say what Trafalmadorians say about dead people, which is, quote, so it goes. There is something deeply compelling and oddly comforting about this concept of time, that we are all permanent pieces of the fabric of space-time, and that, maybe, confined as we are to our own era, we can peek through the tears to see another, to see that the world that was still is, and that the world to be will be. So that's Time Slip. What do you think?
I had a... Don't get emo over Kurt Vonnegut. Anyway, no, I as you were talking about it, I remember something I drew in, I think it was high school. For some reason, I was like, I'm a genius. And it was during my era of like reading a lot of like Reddit stuff. Like,
yeah.
Was I a Reddit head in high school? In the way that like I like to read scary stories in class. I remembered I drew this because of a time slip that I read where they were like going through some sort of like, I don't know where it was. It might have been France or something, or you might have encountered this too, where they were like walking through like an oak.
It's the Versailles
I think
case?
So, yeah. Yeah, that one is the one that I remember the most. And I remember after that, I was literally like, how does time travel work and how would it work? And then I drew this thing, I'm going to draw it live on camera, where it was like, okay.
Please do.
I was like, okay, this is a circle, right? Can you see that? That's a circle, right?
Okay, I see the circle.
Like you're here at this point in time, right? And then I was like, how would you even go back there without, please don't fight, girls. I was like, if you just keep, it's like, okay, this is a straight line. You're here, right? How do you go there? So you bend that time, that kind of thing, right? But I was like, but how would you go through that over and over again? And I was like, you make an infinity symbol. I literally was like, I'm a fucking genius. I was like, but what do I do with this? And I remember it lived on a whiteboard for like weeks because I literally...
You're like, I can't let this idea go. This is gold right here.
I think I used to explain it to my friends. I was like, this? And they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? I was like, wouldn't this be how time travel works? And they're like, what does it matter that you figured out how to turn it? And I was like, don't ruin my dream right now.
Right, yeah. Okay, excuse me. I came up with something pretty big brain. So
I was like, Albert Einstein, when, where, how, and why? Me now.
When for real.
He's the past, I'm the future, and around again, right?
Coming for you, Al.
And I literally just remember drawing that very frantically on my whiteboard. I was like, this is how you spend time, and like not knowing how to do anything about it. I was like, well, that matters. That will matter someday to someone who watches this episode.
I'll come back.
For reference.
Maybe you time slipped into this moment, and then you're time slipping back, and then you reference it.
So maybe in 2068, we all died because I fucked it up, I think. But yeah.
You gave it up. All right, no people that are actually going to try to do time travel listen to this episode because we don't want you fucking up.
Don't steal my idea and don't fuck
the timeline, just in case.
But yeah, I did. Okay, some of the. I think I mostly like my comments on this were mostly like. I guess it was like more of a question of like, what would you do if you were like experiencing a time slip? Like, who would you tell? What would you do immediately after then? Because like I'm hearing that most of like the trend for it is to think about it after and then like talk about it later. And then like what is the kind that you'd like to go through in terms of the time slip versions that you know of?
Yeah. I mean, the time slip thing is interesting. I think like I've definitely had moments where, you know, I think derealization kind of becomes like the main way to explain this stuff, right? When it's happening, because there are moments where your mind will be like, real. That happens, right? Like you'll be walking along, you're like, wow, what's going on here? Like that was in like the Versailles story. There was like, they mentioned like, oh, we looked at the trees and they all seemed like they were painted and like, it just didn't seem real. Like man, that's like a very common theme, right? And then like in the Versailles one, they run into like a dude that is like, it seems like it's kind of hosting a party. And then years later, they go back and they're like, I think that it was this historical figure. But then like the skeptics have been like, well, there was also like a trend in like 1901 of like hosting historical balls at the Palace of Versailles because it's the fucking Palace of Versailles. Like maybe they just wandered into a party and were like tripping out. They were like these two British ladies that were like, oh my goodness, where are we? And these French people were just like we're just normal French people.
Fucking good.
You guys. Yeah, especially when it came, because like the story arose like I think like a year or two later, right? So they spent time, they wrote, they were like kind of brainstormed what happened, what did we actually go through, and they're like, we met Marie fucking Antoinette, dude. That's fucking crazy. So I think it is like a thing where you don't realize how strange it is at the time, right? That's part of the time slip thing, which is kind of goes into like it being probably just derealization. But then that's also like the compelling thing is like, if you did slip through time, if this is a possibility, you probably would take a while to sink in as well, right? If we're playing that game of like, I don't know. I think that I'd probably rather slip into the past and just like temporarily go somewhere. I don't know. The future just seems scary to me. The future seems like more uncertain. Where the past is there's a little comfort in the past of being like, oh yeah, okay, people were just doing their thing back then. But again, I mean, the time slip thing, you're not going to interact with anyone. It's just like you go back and you kind of peek. I think it's cool to think of as like you're almost like a ghost, Like what if they be in the past and they see like a dude in like a fucking t-shirt and they're just like, what is that apparition? And it's just me like just chilling there. I'd be like,
and that brings up the thing of like some people who like maybe ghosts don't exist, but they're actually just people who accidentally like cross through for like a second. Like we see them in this specific time and like action. They're not noticing you because they're like, they just time slipped. They're still in their same house, but like they're alive. They're not ghosts. You just kind of saw them slip in there for like a tiny second.
Yeah. There's like Alan Moore has a book called Jerusalem that I started reading. I never finished because it's 3 volumes. That's too much for me to do. But there was like ghosts are like a main kind of like there are main characters that are ghosts, right? And the way they kind of conceives it is like they're able to basically travel through their life, right? Like various memories of their life. And various places that they went to while they were alive. And so when you see a ghost, like I think one of the ghosts, like he would be like, I'm going to the time when I smashed a milkmaid. And that was like, then somebody would like see an apparition of like ghost fucking if they like walked into that room while he was doing that in his time. If somebody coincided to like go into the barn at the same time, then they would see the ghost. So I think it's like a way of his thing is like we're like all inhabiting the same space and the same space time in the same way. So like a ghost could kind of appear because they are visiting this like a similar moment in the similar space, which is like I'm like that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I know. Like if that were to happen to me in the future, like if I was someone's ghost, but I was just time slipping in the future, I hope it's like me doing something like perfectly like mundane. Like I'm like maybe like right now I'm just sitting here talking and like someone walks by the thing and they're like, what the fuck did I just see? Now I'm recording a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always like an interesting idea. Is like, like what if that's what you're seeing when you're seeing ghosts? It's just like moments in time that were like captured. Yeah, it would be very. I feel sorry for the people that are just like, oh, look, this guy in basketball shorts, like recording in like a dark room. I guess that'd be scary. You'd probably be scared.
Yeah, like in a dark room, I just walked by it like really quickly. You were there for a second. I'd be like, hello.
And it's just like talking to itself too. You're just like,
especially if you were facing the wall.
Just
I'd be like, I gotta go.
One of these podcasting ghosts.
I think that'll be the future of ghosts, like podcasting ghosts. They're like, what are you hearing? And then you like lean closer to the wall, and they're like, well, actually, I don't think that women can vote.
We're never getting rid of
her. Never. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's it's interesting for like the idea of like I don't know, time travel, time slipping. Very cool.
It's a big brain shit. I was definitely like, man, this is too complicated at some points where I was just like, I don't know how to explain this. What's happening? But yeah. Now we're warmed up for some NPC talk.
NPC talk, where in the moment,
yeehaw, right, cowboy?
I do touch on some things you talked about, such as derealization, which is good that you already covered it because I like touched on it like as I said the word. And we're going to touch back on the Matrix theory, so we're also going to get big brained in this moment as well. Ben, if you happen to come up with any diagrams, please do show them. Okay, so Ben, what is your familiarity with the term NPC, and can you think of when or why you first heard that like term?
So I'm going to have to out myself as a bit of a gamer here. So I do know NPC is non-playable character. And within video gaming, it's just anybody that is not the character interact with. And then it's kind of transitioned into some slightly derogatory term for like just people, generally people that you disagree with or that you think are behaving in like a kind of pre-programmed or not human way, right? Where you're like, you're just reciting lines that somebody put into you is kind of the NPC.
And
thing,
that's
right?
the episode. But yeah, good, fantastic, amazing. That's your definition. I don't have to say it again. No. But Ben Gamer Out. We do also have a Twitch that you should watch. I haven't released the edit for the most recent one because it's living in my
I stream you meme.
Let's go. But yeah, for me, I don't know when I first really encountered this word because like I don't play video games as evident on the streams, but it was definitely like in the video games realm. I don't remember what game it was, but it was definitely something like Dark Souls or something like that because it was that visual. I never played it, but I did watch people play it. So don't you ever think I'm a gamer. To add to Ben's definition, as a gaming definition, an NPC is any character in a game that's not a player. You may easily associate NPCs with video games, but this bad boy has been around since 1975 due to our bestie
Indeed.
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. So basically for tabletop games, this could be characters played off by your dungeon master, right? This is if you're into the Adventure Zone by the McElroys, you get Barry, Luke, Kravitz, Lucretia, and Garfield the Teals Warlock. For video game examples, we have the little kid in the Pokemon Red and Blue that just goes, I like shorts. They're comfy and easy to wear. We have the narrator from Stanley Parable, Sans from Undertale, Tom Nook from Animal Crossing, as some that we're all familiar with. You can probably think of some on your own. Ben, do you have any favorite or memorable NPCs that you've ever encountered?
I definitely I played a lot of Fallout New Vegas, and so I always liked the ghouls. And then Fallout 3, there's of course the classic. I can't remember his name. It's so. Spoiler alert for Fallout 3, a nearly 20-year-old game. At the end of the game, you have to go into a nuclear reactor to shut it down and save everybody, right? One of your companions is a super mutant. Within the game, super mutants are immune to radiation. And if you ask him to go into it, he's just like, this is not my story to tell. This is your story, my friend. And so you're forced to do it, even though there's a guy who it would mean nothing to. You have to sacrifice yourself.
He was like, no, you.
No, I just don't want to. That's
He's
literally
this
what
is
it
above
is.
me. That's hella funny.
Yeah, right?
He's like, no, this is above me. That's so, I'm going to be thinking about that for days.
That's none of my business.
It's not my circus, not my monkeys.
100%, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Mine are always my favorites from Animal Crossing, So those are my guys. I don't play. Oh.
Do you have any Animal Crossing villagers that you've kicked out?
No, I can't do it.
Your village?
People are like, I kicked them out because he's ugly. I'm like,
yeah.
Hello.
They're all worthy.
I love
They're
them all. Yeah.
all valid.
Flo is my favorite. Is the penguin one? That one is the longest running villager because, and then it's always very sweet. And they're like, oh my God, you haven't been back in weeks. I'm like, thanks, Bestie, for remembering who I am.
Yeah, thanks for noticing.
But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Those are who they are for tabletop, video games. What do I say? A single word. Tabletop and video games.
Yeah.
Okay. But how it manifests in social life, as Ben mentioned, is someone who is an NPC is someone deemed to be pretty deeply normcore, predictable responses, mainstream ideas, and thoughts about things. They're deemed side characters of real life. No, Hachi, get out of there.
Cat activity.
Right. So they're deemed side characters of real life. They have no immediate purpose or uniqueness. The insult is that NPCs are unable to form thoughts or opinions of their own. Basically, you have your main characters of daily life, people who are seen as unique. You do a little double take at them on the street because they look very fashionable, a little wild, something really stands out about them. You talk to them and they're the most interesting person on the world, Dos Equis style. And then you have NPCs who seem to just be going about the world doing the most normal, regular shit without we'll talk about this more later, how it manifests in social life, both online and in the real world, especially in its origin space. But how it manifests on social media, in the social media space like TikTok, Instagram, this is where we start our life today. But for now, we're going to talk about the basic challenges that exist due to the whole NPC idea within the creator space, right? Ashley Barnham writes in Kotaku about NPC in real life, trend on social media where people just basically harass unsuspecting people on the streets. It's basically those videos where people do weird shit in public and wait for the reaction of just people around them that they've deemed to be NPCs because they're not the main character or the creator of the video. One direct example is Big C the Don, a TikToker who basically makes his whole entire jam the act of bothering everyday people who don't know what the hell is going on or around the at all, because they're just kind of minding their own business, New York City style. If something's happening,
great bit, guys.
If something's happening to you or next to you, mind your own business. Not so. I'm not playing the videos because I do like the tentative calm that we have on the show, barring the shit that Ben and I say. But you can basically imagine that a lot of it is basically the gist of Cosmo, aka Big C the Don, walking into a room on the tube, the tram, whatever, and just bursting out in song or giving random advice to people who are generally just existing. He labels these people as NPCs as they fail to react to whatever he's doing. I have listed examples in the doc for everyone to watch. I'm not going to subject Ben and I to that, but basically it's just like one of the videos is he gets on the train where people are just kind of minding their own business and start singing Skepta. And then there's another video where he just goes up to people and tells them random stuff, which for me and my sort of basic experience on the public transportation is just like another day, another dollar, right? It's like, that's not NPC behavior.
It's not like you're not that noteworthy, man. Like, you're singing on the fucking subway. You know who else is? Fucking everybody. People get on there with a guitar. Everyone's just fucking miserable. We're just like, please get the fuck off. I don't want you get on BART and some guy will be on there with a Bluetooth speaker blasting the most heinous song ever. And what do? Nothing. Yeah. That doesn't mean you're an NPC. That just means you're a person in the world. You're living with other people. And you're like, I don't want to start shit. I'd rather just get to fucking work.
I'm tired. I'm in the train. We're just here together. It's not NPC behavior. It's just like public etiquette in a strange way.
I did have a moment of NPC behavior or being accused of NPC behavior on the bus really recently.
Yeah. Well,
so I got on the bus. There was this guy and he was at the bus stop and he was for sure smoking crack or meth because he was like under a blanket and like his head was between his legs. But then the bus came. I was like, hey man, you're getting on the bus? And he's like, oh yeah, thank you, man. And I he got on the bus and then he sat next to this girl behind me who was like just a kind of like goth Portland girl, like just on her phone. And, it was just a normal bus ride for like a stop or two. And then he got up and he was like, none of you are in touch with reality, man. You can't see what's going on in front of you. You're just all on your fucking phones. You're fucking robots. You're not even like really in touch with shit. Look at you all just looking at your phones while I'm talking to you. And it's like, okay, so clearly she just didn't want to talk to this guy who I wouldn't really want to open a conversation with either. I'm kind of in the same boat with her. I guess that makes me an NPC. I was just like, yeah, I guess I'm not in touch with reality. That's totally what's happening. I'm just, it's not like I'm looking at my phone to avoid making contact with you intentionally. That's not what's happening. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good experience because I really was gonna ask later if you have ever exhibited or experienced any NPC behavior. So thank you. That was very.
I'm a full NPC for sure. Yeah.
I was like, damn, I am too. I'm just going through life, just coasting to it. Yeah. Right. So we've had the real life example, social media example, a recent example in terms of movies that I watch, which is Free Guy, which is interestingly enough, I did an actual review of on YouTube a long time ago because my friend was deeply into Taika Waititi. And I was like, don't watch this movie, I'll watch it. And I linked the video itself on the YouTube documents. I won't plug the YouTube channel because be warned, I do talk about music, not in this funny space. I'm sitting in a tub of haterade on that channel, just kidding. But yeah, so if you're you want to know about Free Guy from a person who was watching it at 12 a.m., you can watch that video. But Free Guy follows the least favorite of the Ryans. I like Ryan Gosling because this Ryan Reynolds got married on a plantation. Yeah.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that.
He plays Guy, who is an NPC who eventually realizes that he's an NPC and begins to make moves to break out of that. The movie's like, oh, my behavior is the same every day. Let me jump at people and see what they do. That kind of thing, right? It helps garner empathy towards like the treatment of people outside of video games and what they do to NPCs. And so many people are in this fucking. Once again, Taika Waititi is in it. You're probably in it too. I don't know. But yeah, you should look it up or watch it. Luckily for you, I already did that if you don't want to do that. But yeah, we basically have Free Guy going through the paces of everyday life, realizing that he's been consistently doing the same things over and over again, getting up, brushing his teeth, going to work, saying the same exact phrase over and over again. It's when he challenges his dialogue peers and aims for more that he realizes the full scope of his identity as an NPC, how he can break out of it, how he can't, and what happens. Does, right? I might make it sound like a good movie, but honestly, it is not. There's a good friendship in that movie that's really nice, and there's a very terribly shoehorned romance section, like romantic thing in that movie that I was like, stop doing it. It's unbelievable. But anyway, now that I've given you some of the basic background for the NPC, we're going to go into today's topic, which is the NPC live streaming and even just a little bit of NPCs in daily live trend that we talked about when it comes to big season. Right. So you might be wondering, JD, our favorite son of the internet, how is that scary? How is any of that scary? Ben, what did you say about how NPC streamer people make you feel?
Uncomfortable and kind of sad. That's the two main emotions that I experienced. That is scary,
right? It's just kind of thinking about why it makes you a little, just sit in that feeling, get uncomfortable right now, Ben. I do have 2 videos to show you. So, in a little bit, I chose one that's like a stereotypical NPC stream, and then one that I think you might enjoy. As it exists, we're also going to talk about it as it exists in the insulting word space, which is from a "Are you an NPC" post from 4chan in 2016. The NPC became an insult once it entered the minds of the alt-right to discern themselves from those who do not align with their beliefs. The text reads, "Are you an NPC? I have a theory that there are only a fixed quantity of souls on planet Earth that cycles continuously through reincarnation." Apologies. My glasses have been going in, and I made my screen like so far.
How big is that font?
It's at 11. Right. I'm struggling. Anyway, however, since the human growth rate is so severe, the soulless extra walking flesh piles around us as NPCs or ultimate normal F-slurs who autonomously follow group thinks and social trends in order to appear convincingly human. I call these people NPCs because when you talk to them, they just say the same shit every time. Trump is Hitler. Just be yourself. Sports ball. The new Adele song. XD. OMG. If you make a show of discomfort when you break the status quo, like by breaking the normie barrier to invoke a real discussion, it's like in a video or vidya when you accidentally talk to somebody twice and they give you the same exact lines word for word once. How do you rate that reading?
I hate it. I fucking hate it. That was, oh god, sports, like complaining about sports ball, just like can you say that you don't have friends like in a more clear way than writing that post?
Anyway, before we get into some more inflammatory content, this was basically the starting moment of the NPC as an insult, but it has also been accent. It has also been taken out of the 4chan context and has been used on the internet widely, whether or not the person is a member of the alt-right. It exists on WikiHow as a general term defined as the following. When someone calls a real-life person an NPC, they are equating them to a non-playable character in a video game. You might call someone an NPC if they tend to repeat the same thing over and over again, or if they don't react when you say or do something unexpected. Then, that entire bus scenario, you're the NPC. Right? At this point, you can take it as face value and not consider the history of the term as a derogatory word for people who are just existing as they are. This is doing so is sort of an act of cleansing it to just be about behavior instead of the original thing that had implications and on the person itself, their politics, and a little bit of a dehumanization, baby. From the definition we have above from 4chan, we get to something closer to if someone is acting like an NPC in real life, they probably don't have many strong opinions. You might hear them say, "I don't know," or "sounds okay" a lot, even for things that aren't yes or no questions, right? WikiHow does state that calling people NPCs originates from discourse about politics and opinions about those who are easily swayed, but makes no mention of it essentially being kind of like a little bit of a dog whistle. Ben will now read lines that I wrote and won't say. But yeah, all of you looking at the script, you can follow along with the original definition because I do hate saying that entire definition out loud in real life. We will work through specific parts of the definition that make it stand out. Okay, so let's go through it again now. OP notes that there are only a fixed quantity of souls on planet, right? Okay, then read this out loud if I can find my notes. So, wait, hold on. Read it after I say this. Okay. OP notes that there are only a fixed quantity of souls on planet Earth. Ben?
These are just a few of the world religions that believe in souls. Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Kabbalah, Judaism. Which religion are you using to define, quote, soul? Or is this detached from religion?
Think about it. When you say souls, what do you mean?
Question.
Right? None of that Dark Souls stuff. When you define that there's only a fixed number of souls on planet Earth, what exactly are you talking about? Source citations are needed.
Yeah.
OP then follows that up with soulless extra walking flesh piles around us as NPCs, or ultimate normal F slurs, regarding the issue of not enough souls to go around to make original people. Ben?
Damn, dude. Isn't that just being alive and existing
So
as you
true,
are?
bestie. The definition of normal Epsler is people who enjoy mainstream things and live typical, ignorant, mundane lives. I guess so. These folks basically reject a lot of things that they view are not normal, such as less well-known music, anime, and video games. Basically, if you are a normal Epsler, you are someone who has desire for normality. There are four ways to use an F, most of them being an insult to someone's intelligence, banality, shallowness. You can use this to troll someone who wants a normal life or exhibits mainstream behavior. One of the most interesting aspects of this definition is from Urban Dictionary, beyond the other extremely biased stuff. This one is from someone who I think doesn't like the term, but is still a bit of a Reddit person. They say one of the third uses of it is, for the most part, a petty stab at a person for having a social life and or girlfriend. So, Ben, of the definitions that I provided to you, what do you think of them? Like, if you think of you and I as people, if we are people, are we normal F slurs?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, so like we're both very chronically online people. We like weird shit. And I think there's like such a like amount of like pride in that for some people that are like very online and very into like games and stuff, where they're like, oh, you decided to touch grass. You're like pursuing a normal life. And it's like, no, I'm just like doing other shit. Like there's other shit than just like being online as well. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. So I guess to a certain extent, would we be called it? Potentially, I think that we could be at risk of being called that. Would I describe myself as that?
No,
Definitely not. But I don't think anybody would.
You just feel like, am I just not living? If someone ever said that to us, I want you to say the next line.
Just say you're an edgy hipster, babe.
But now say it in a voice that sounds just like me. Just kidding.
Okay. Channel my JD.
So true, Ben. Thank you. Okay. Anyway, in the search of the definition for it, Anna, I did find another person who seemed to take on a different idea of it and twist it on its back like the little baby that it is, little turtle that it is. This person said, this is a term that describes a person who browses 4chan, but has a normal life, brackets, has a social life, works, attends college, mainly used in a derogatory manner by jealous netizens. And I need this line. I'm gonna release a cut of this that is smooth.
We'll edit it down. Damn, dude, so true.
Anyway, OP further notes the definition by saying that the original term that was on 4chan, they say that NPCs follow group things or social trends because God, trends, right? Well, trends are helpful when it comes to navigating the world, as it takes care of the basic needs in all of us, such as the need for communicating social identity and the collective need for making sense of the world, according to Maria McKinney Valentine with the Danish Design School in Copenhagen. Trends help us navigate the world like a little GPS to help us do some fitting in, as people tend to avoid danger, bullying, and all of the stuff that tends to happen when you're an outcast. Basma Goma notes that trends are things that give us a little push on where to go next, cutting the need to think too much about what's next and what's hot for all of us, right? Another aspect of the term, the NPC from the 4chan definition is the need to appear convincingly human, right? I look to our friend Quora to see what people think about why people want to appear human or semi-normal. And this is what people said, right? Letitia VM says, I feel like people want to be normal because Mythly Thangavel says it's because people have a fear of criticism. Shiloh J. Ed City says it's not the normal, it's the sense of stability. Jurgen Pallison says because most humans are group thinkers and will often uncritically conform with a group. They will say and act like the group does, and a dominant leader can influence what the group does. And then
not like me.
And Daniel Zhang says the be normal survival strategy gives average access to resources in the humanity network, and it's very easy to find comparable neighbors for progress reference. So basically, Daniel, with your smart mind, was just like being normal helps you kind of access the world,
live a life
as much as
a human.
To just give you the kind of like ability to move through it without getting bullied. Right? I talk about this later for me, but you're looking at me right now. I'm persona non grata everywhere else, right? I've got blue hair, I've got pronouns, I exist, and I'm neurodivergent. The appearance of normalness or sameness with everyone around me, even if I am the only Asian person in a group, serves to block me from any possible physical or verbal harm as someone who does stand out, right? This might not be too much of an issue in like California or the city we're in right now so far, but this is an issue like elsewhere. And I typically, if I feel like I am out of place somewhere, or if I feel like existing as such requires me to pull back my hair a little bit or dress as nicely as possible, I would do my best to appear convincingly human, just like everyone else, and just kind of follow along personal safety, right? I'm going to turn it on everyone else, which is, I ask all of you, what does it mean to be normal or human? Think for a second and consider that very big question, right? What makes you human as compared to someone who isn't, right? What makes you normal? And then what makes you desire normalness, right? Just kind of like sit in that. As we're in a very uncomfortable episode today, right? Further along, we get more into the attributes of NPC from the 4chan definition again as saying the same shit every time. Could it be that a person who says the same shit every time, whether you think of them as an NPC or not, just has really stable thoughts and opinions that they sort of have figured out for themselves, right? A person can be ever changing, right? But they have stable preferences, likes, thoughts, and ideas because they like that thing. Maybe, I don't know. And then they say another part of the NPC idea is if you make a show of discomfort when you break the status quo, like by breaking the normie barrier to invoke a real discussion. Ben, I need you to read this big block of text. So if you make a show, think of that. What kind of question yourself, like, what does it mean for someone who thinks that you're NPC when they say, I'm saying something that breaks the status quo. I'm breaking the normie barrier. What are they saying? So Ben, I need you to read the quote. Okay.
In the 4chan mind, what is breaking the status quo and, quote, breaking the normie barrier to invoke a real discussion, quote, is questioning the idea that people should have all access to homes as a human right, that we should all be paid well, that you should return the cart to the cart storage or as close to the store as you can if you are able-bodied, or what a minor is, what free speech covers, and why you, quote, hate everybody equally. Personally, when I think of, quote, breaking the status quo, end quote, and the, quote, normie barrier, I think everyone can sing and no one sings badly. We shouldn't be posting photos of our children on the internet at all if your account isn't private. Labor-intensive jobs should get paid a lot, etc. What exactly are you saying to break the normie barrier and the status quo that doesn't imply that you're closer to a libertarian than a
so true, bestie? Right? We're now going to round it out with because I don't want to say anything. I hate the fucking term. Anyway, we're going to now round it out with the other quote, which is, it's like in a video when you accidentally talk to somebody twice and they give you the same exact lines word for word once more. Now, this is something I'm going to ask, right? When you're in that sort of conversation, right? Did you ask the same thing twice? Is it a very general question that could have a very practiced answer that someone already is sort of managed? Is it small talk that you're asking about? Did you say something out of pocket that someone didn't know how to respond to you, so they just said the same thing twice to get you to leave them alone? Most importantly, do you care about the existence of other people's lives that happen independently, right?
Right.
Anyway, so cool of you to help out, Ben. I have one last thing for you to say, not as inflammatory as the previous one. Say it.
Thank you, JD, who is perfectly of a good height.
Thank you
and
so much.
background.
This is why we're best friends. Anyway, so what now, right? Is the NPC something we can remove from this, like, sort of like big origin that's a little heavy, right? I first asked about like why normalness or a lack of perceived visual individuality is like a challenging idea for like some people, right? Like, why do we all have to be something special? Like, what is the need for that, right? And I'm like, I'm not gonna say that as someone who has whatever's got going on with me. I still probably look like the next like 3 to 5 Asian people out there. Like, I'm not gonna say that like the split hair dye blue and gold is a common color combo, right?
Yeah.
I look like another person, right? I don't know why I italicize this. The West is pretty individualistic, and as a participant of the West of society, I understand why there's like a bit of a struggle, right? Many of us do want to shine in one way or another. We love doing ISYM pod for fun, but we do try to like stand out and do things in a way that'll like make us listen to us now, right? And like as a visibly like Asian person, one of the visual issues of that is that folks have said that like all Asians look the same, right? Or they have a very specific look to them. And there's like there was a whole like TikTok thing about like this is what the Asians in Asia look like when it comes to their hair, and this is what the Asians in the US look like when it comes to their hair, right? There's the whole like Asian girl in movies with the hair stripe color to stand out, and that's like becomes sort of like a trope of like to make sure to distinct that this is the special Asian who's gonna have lines in this movie, right? It's kind of the thing that like is supposed to like put this Asian person forward, aside from like they're all the same visuals of like one important thing to point out about that is I'm not part of like the internet's big Asian squad. I'm Southeast Asian Filipino. So I do have like visual differences even in the big Asian squad. So how do you then stand out of like the standard look and have unique qualities that don't make you stand out so much that it makes it look like you're purposely doing it, standing out? Or like, how do you be cool but enough so that it works and you become a main character instead of an NPC who's trying a little too hard, right? Is there something so bad in attempting to belong so that you don't become persecuted in some way, right? Is there something so bad about doing your best to mask in a very exhausting manner, right? For myself as someone with ADHD, I do my best to appear normal in settings to not stand out visually as someone who is fidgety. Looks like they're not paying attention. There is a sense of normalness that I crave, this like the standard behavior of someone who is neurotypical, right? Is that bad? Or is it that we need to accept the differences in people and realize that being different from one another is both normal and just a little symptom of the human mind's ability to pick and choose like what it wants to do beyond our control, right? I always think of that one thing like on X on someone Z'd it a long time ago, but it was like the brain named itself kind of thing, and you're just kind of like, now what can I do about that? Do I have any control, right? And then like I want you to for a second to like at home and on today's show like to think about like being an NPC and what that could mean to you, right? Do you want to be the main character? Do you hate the idea of being the main character? Do you hate the idea of being an NPC? Is standard necessarily derogatory? Is unique the big goal? Vice versa, right? That was all big, scary thoughts, but we'll now dive into the aspect of NPCs that is also equally not as fun, such as the idea of dehumanization and the concept of not leaving people alone in public, and a gentle reminder of the Matrix theory. But for now, let's go off the visual and physical terrors of, we're going to go into this section like we are a cop sliding down a metal tube. We're going to bang the sides just a little bit.
We're a Boston cop.
Boston cop and polyester. Somebody remix. I'm pretty sure there's got to be a remix. Anyway, yeah.
Gotta be one. Yeah.
The Uncanny Valley, right? Ripping from my Send in the Clown script from the Clown Phenomenon episode. The Uncanny Valley comes from our friend Masahiro Mori of the Tokyo Institute of Technology, which is the idea of the closer something looks to a human, the more we are okay and at ease with it. However, there's a point or a valley where it becomes just a little bit off, a little to something else. We're not comforted by it anymore, and it no longer passes our, if yes, the human program in our head. We're just plain old creeped out by it. A lot of, if people have seen the NPC streamers that really get people, it's they've got jerky, abrupt movements, repetitive. It's close enough to its video game counterparts that we only struggle with it, probably due to the fact that it's in a very human and very physical body. It's funny when we see it in, what is that freaking game? San Andreas?
San Andreas.
Yeah, that
San
the San
Andreas,
Antonio. I was like,
GTA.
they've released one that's San Antonio, Texas.
Texas.
The Texas edition.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're gonna watch two videos. One of them is like the more standard one. We're gonna view it together. How do I?
Marshmallow, crunchy corn, yum! Pity paws, pumpkin, yum! How spicy. Ice cream, yum! Pity paws.
It basically goes on like that over and over again. Do not hit. Okay, there we go.
It's like a minute of like a couple hour stream. Right?
One particular thing about that really gets me of these sometimes, I don't know if it's like the video to like audio lag, but some of them have like this really beautiful like mouth movement and then the words come out, but also sometimes it's like words come out and then mouth movement happens, and I'm like, is that video lag or is that just like your ability to do it? Right?
Some ventriloquism going on there.
If you're not watching right now because you're driving or you're doing something important like washing the dishes, go bestie, go. I love you. In this video, we have the jittery random movements, the one-liners, the dance movements, the random vocal changes with a spicy one. When I first saw that, I was like,
yeah.
Fuck. Right? The mouth movements, very smooth. In one of the replies, a username Altered WIX replied with, "What is going on here? AI gen models?" And another user named Chai Letterman said, "If you listen to this for 30 seconds or more, this will haunt your dreams and echo in your mind when you're alone with your thoughts for the next fortnight." But yeah, and this next one that we're going to watch is a little bit different, but still in the sort of thread of like NPC live stream. Okay, it's good. It's much better than the previous one. It's certainly unique.
I hope this is my guy. I hope this is. Fingers crossed.
Please share. Seen it? You're like, damn.
Fire. Mama, why is it so cold? I'm hallucinating the medicine. Oh, Rose, I do miss the garden. Oh, food, please, sir, may I have some more? Oh, food, please, sir, may I have some more? An ice lolly, I do love sugar. Oh, food, please, sir, may I have some more? Oh, Rose, how I do miss it. Oh, Rose, how I do
So
miss
that is one of them.
It's like the consumption.
Yeah, so it's a frail Victorian child that has apparently when this frail Victorian child gets the right amount of money, she dies at the end, and it just happens all over again in the next stream. So that was a little bit unique. That was like the ones that I watched, like a little. I was like, I like that one. Ben, what were you? What were you?
There's something going on there. Yeah. Oh, there's like the guy who just says like the most disgusting shit as like his.
No, I haven't.
You know,
I don't know that one.
He's like a little white guy with curly hair, and he's just like, your taint smells yucky. Time to suck the toes, and you're like, yeah, he's just says like that's every reaction.
Oh my
god, disgusting to say.
No, that one has not come across my screen just yet. Okay.
I'll send it your way. We'll get it
taste of what goes on in our fucking DMs and Ben sending me the most heinous shit. But yeah, some of the big names in the space are not Coco, who's had it going since 2020, and then the one that most everyone probably knows about is Pinky Doll, who is cranking out some of the more iconic ones. If you watch these videos, you'll get a basic taste of what it's like to just feel a little bit off because the person's movements are a little too smooth going. Right. But let's now go off of let's move off of the live streams and trending videos and think about the implications of the NPC in various worlds, both in real and online spaces, right? Let's first think about how we tend to treat NPC characters in games. We can go back to Free Guy and think about the emotions that some of the NPCs started to feel. I bet why you laughing at it.
The ultimate text.
Some of the NPCs started feeling once they realized what they were, right? I've seen folks teabag NPCs, attempt to hurt them for no reason, purposely harass them in various ways. Now, since they're just like digital program software kind of thing, that's not necessarily any harm, right? But no, because no one is on the other side of you randomly shooting an arrow into them and them making a little funny noise. But what if you were someone who is fully bought into the idea of the 4chan NPC, right? That people are just soulless, extra walking flesh piles around us as NPCs. If we go back to our Glitch in the Matrix / Gateway of the Mind episode, you can recall that I talk about the simulation theory. In that episode, I wrote, consider the point by Stephen Johnson. If you believe you're in a simulation, you might also think that some people in the simulation are less real. You start to think, if this is all a game, I'm the star of the show, right? You're the main character. No one else is as real as me. I can do, say, think, act however I want, and no one will feel anything. I can get on the tube, start screaming to Skepta, start dancing, whatever. Everyone around you is computer generated and not real the way that you're real. This makes them less than you. You're the main character, they're the NPCs. There is a loss of personhood in doing this once you start to believe that you're in a simulation, both for you and the people around you. When it comes to physical harm, we know of the Matrix defense, likened to an insanity defense, where the aim is to say that a person who perpetrated a crime was unable to distinguish reality from the simulation where they committed a crime. Several others have used this defense, however, some end up falling flat once cross-examined. I, again, won't be discussing a real crime because exhausted by real crime, so I'm just going to pose an example for you again. Using a or PUBG scenario, and nothing was real to them at the moment. They are the main character. These are all NPCs that I can do whatever I want to, teabagging them, shooting them straight in the head. If this is then coupled with the person being into video games, being into the Matrix or anything like it, you've got the perfect storm for a defense. Anything like this. Someone who you can use the sort of like, oh, they're an avid enjoyer of 4chan. They believe that other people are NPCs. You can't blame them because they're fully bought into this, right? This is, think of it as like a potential scapegoat as well. Blame the Matrix, blame 4chan, blame this definition. They believe that these people were not real. This is beyond them. We can't blame them, right?
Yeah. It's kind of, it's ironic that like the defense is ostensibly that, oh, they were like programmed as you would an NPC, that they're like, they're actually the ones that are like affected by groupthink or like pushed into this mental space.
So if we think of how we treat NPCs in video games, I'm not beyond this. I will randomly throw things at Animal Crossing characters. Like hitting them with like the fishbowl, right? Like I've done that before. I'm not immune to it. It's not too far off that people might want to do that to people in real life, right? In a similar way, they're just doing these to like the random stranger confrontations on the street. Once we believe that people are just meatbags rolling through the world, what makes it different from this sort of like, well, you're not real, but I am, right? And then in terms of how people treat and do online content, in terms of how we treat people online, this can be applied to that too. Let's touch base again with Ashley Bardhan of Kotaku, who said, in my most crucial years, the tweens and teens, I formed my identity and understanding of community through chat rooms, blogs, group texts. I never saw who I was talking to on the other end. When I was younger, spending most of my time concerned with my internal and personal digital world, I think I stopped seeing that everyone around me was fully. They looked to me like empty-headed NPCs, but then I grew up. I learned to listen and care for other people. I learned that my egotism made any self-granted hero status diminish quickly. It hurts you and the people trying to help you on your journey. And NPCs, are they really so mindless? Is it so terrible to be a helpful member of a well-meaning collective? NPCs have stories, families, and feelings too. Being like everyone else isn't so bad, so I don't need to be the hero too. Sometimes I'm fine with being someone else's NPCs, right? We shift that then over to the NPC streamers. What does it feel like to be a person who watches these streams, put in a couple cents, and then get a reaction, right? It becomes the sort of like monetary exchange, right? What do you demand of that person once you're able to put in more than 5 cents at a time? Once you're putting in $10, $20, $50, $100, and more. I am never going to hate on my besties in the K-pop space, but I will mention this just a little bit, which is the idea of putting in so much money into a person and then believing that just a little bit that money matters and that they have a little bit of like, some people joke that like, I play this video game so much, I bought so many of the in-game downloads. Right. I actually bought this table for this company, that kind of thing, right? What in terms of like in the K-pop world, they have these things where it's like fan calls, right? Some of it is done through you buy an album, you get picked for that, or you buy so many albums, you get so many entries into the thing. So people who do the so many albums thing, they tend to do like group orders, right? Because they're people who are experienced in buying a ton of albums. So the reward of you getting your album correctly and not getting scammed, that person's reward is they get 300 orders and they're basically straight into that fan call. And then they get to talk to their favorite idol, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You are someone who bought a $10 album you know what your $10 gave. You may not have given it to that idol. You may have given it to the company who has them for another 7 years. What is a person thinking who has just basically spent a cumulative $3,000 on a bunch of orders, now getting into the space? They get to go and do it every single time because they're responsible for tens and hundreds of like orders. They're now, I'm going to be remembered by this idol, da 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 da. Some people might end up doing this thing where like an idol is rumored to be dating. They're going to send a truck over to the front of that company and say, kick them out of the group because they are dating somebody. I do not want them fucking anybody at all. Right? That kind of thing, right? It's kind of in the streamer space, it's like the commodification of the human body and its actions. You gave this person $10. They will now say it's spicy or whatever Ben's person said, right? It seems as though a lot of the NPC live streamers are, for the most part, incredibly conscious of this act, and they talk about what they earn, and they're pretty much like saying that it's easy to do this because I don't have to do anything unique or original. I might get boxed into this kind of thing, but for a long time while I'm doing it, I do get money. Just saying it's spicy. Mini. Right? They do face danger as everyone else is online will face. Mini. Well, I guess she's in this one. Anyway, so it's like they do face some danger as everyone online will face. But the idea that folks can see that finish line as $10 and then push it forward to 20, move it forward, and then back on its ass has got to be very scary. Like, if I can get this for 5 cents, what can I get for $200? Right? And then we turn it into a smaller circle or instance. Like, personally for us, like, we can think just like Ashley about all of the people that we interact with online. Just because we don't see them doesn't mean they don't exist and live full lives in their own way beyond our like sort of idea of what a full life is, right? They live and exist outside of all that we do. Ben and I joke about being NPCs during this whole thing, but we also exist and have full lives of our own to the best of our abilities. We could be your NPC. You could be our NPC. That's fine. And there is a life beyond that. Minnie is going to sleep now. Recently in the social space, I saw an example on Reddit. I missed it, screenshotting it, and I didn't save it, but it was someone talking about basically a coworker calling them very predictable and simple, in line with someone who sees himself as a main character would say to someone who's just basically existing. That person was like, he told me I'm predictable, asked me a question, and he knows exactly what I'll say. Everything I like is normal, mainstream, right? It was a complete whiplash for me as someone who does enjoy the idea of like normalness or stability, right? The OP posted about how their coworker pointed out how predictable they are with what they're going to respond to things, about what they like, what they do. The OP was very self-conscious about it, and I felt a little bad for them, right? Like, for me, I was like, damn, has anyone ever thought about that about me, right? I was like, I do my best to, like, maybe not stand out, but just to look like how I want me to look like. But then someone, like, this is how I want to look.
Feel like you're authentically yourself.
Other place in the world, someone has this exact same combination. That doesn't bother me too much. But has anyone ever thought of me that way, right? That kind of thing. Speaking as someone who's like neurodivergent, right? It's like wondering as sometimes if like your masking comes off a little too predictable, right? And trying hard at the idea of being a person that's like mildly acceptable, right? In the social spaces, there's a possibility that this whole NPC thing could be weaponized against people who make an attempt of normalness for safety, but also just like a general thing. You don't really think about like the fact that you're just sitting there, or like you just had the same exact conversation with this person again previously, maybe because you guys just thought about the same exact thing, right? Let's revisit the idea of this NPC thing as it came out, though, right? Let's pull back from all of those stuff again as a second, with a focus on the politics of the person, right? Cecilia D. Anastasia of Kotaku writes that the NPC Minnie! Why did you choose today of all days, right? Cecilia D. Anastasia of Kotaku writes that the NPC meme takes things a step further into a political zone where mass outcry against, say, serial killers, racial injustice, or Trumpian ideas is dismissed as not just inherently uncritical, but prima facie evidence of a lack of human consciousness. She brings in Ian Miles Chung as one of the users of the term of NPC to describe alt-right critical people who identify dog whistles as like, right? Its popularity in the right-wing space as a substitute for social justice warriors was rising at the time, right? Used to critique liberal spaces and thought as something that's unoriginal and born out of no consideration and pure regurgitation as The article notes that the term NPC is dismissive of the people that it describes, but also deeply unempathetic of those who might have lived different experiences from you, which is kind of like the NPC term is like, oh, anyone who is different, means, right? But it's also like turning its head on that, right? The idea that it's kind of saying like the idea that people could generally agree on something that is good or bad without having experienced it is just outright bogus, and you can't possibly do that, right? No, empathy and sympathy doesn't exist. You just have to have experienced anything to know it, right? In conclusion, the NPC as an insult is incredibly interesting, right? You can potentially remove the origin of NPCs as an insult from 4chan, but is it helpful to do so, right? To water it down to just be a you're so norm core kind of thing instead of something that tends to dehumanize people and just make robots out of them that you shouldn't care about because they're soulless bags, right? The NPC as an act is incredibly interesting as well. It's easy in the sense that its repetitive, jerky, and stuttering movements are welcome because this is the standard. This is easy. You can get stuff done with this, right? But we do need to take away from all of this is the question of what it means to be, what it means to ourselves, right? And to each other. What is the fear in blending in, being seen as normal, or just being generic? And of course, there are those of us who cannot help but stand out. But in this day and age of like the main characters and the ultimate desire to just get by, isn't normal instability something that's just a little bit attractive in the face of chaos? Don't you just want every day to go the same? Don't open your eyes and see a plume of fire. Is it so crazy, you guys? And then in the script itself has links for people who might struggle with depersonalization and derealization. Please visit those links if you did a little bit of struggling in this episode. Love you. But yeah, that stuff.
I had a thought about like, I don't know if it's like more common on, I mean, it probably is more common on the right. I feel like accuse other people of being an NPC, right? I got a message from a male relative that I was thinking of. They sent me something about the Hunter Biden laptops, and I basically responded and was like, I don't give a shit. Don't talk to me about this.
Go.
Let me just read their response. An excerpt from it, because it was pretty long. They wrote me a whole ass essay. You can either be Copernicus or Galileo or any number of truth tellers, or you can be the Cardinals and their minions. It's up to you, I guess. So that was because I was not invested in the Hunter Biden laptop theory. And I feel like that's like the old man version of calling me an NPC, right? And I think partially the appeal is that when you have a minority opinion, as like people on the right do, they are not the majority in this country. The far right is not the majority. They have to feel like other people are not valid. You have to feel like you're the truth seer, like you're the one that's peeking through things, and everybody else is fucked up. Everybody else is wrong. It's not the fact that I have an abhorrent view. It's not the fact that I have an unpopular view, or maybe it's unpopular, but that's only because other people aren't smart enough to get it. I think that is maybe why it's more of a thing in like the alt-right, is like you have these views, you're a Holocaust denier, you're something, you have some fucked up view, and it disagrees, the world disagrees with it, and it's to the point where it should be laughed off. If somebody's like, I don't think the Holocaust happened, you should just be like, that's not a fucking valid position to have. But when you have that position, you want to stay with that position, and you want to justify it, and you want to feel like you're right. And the only way to do that, because it's not based in fact, it's not based in the reality, it's based in your feelings of superiority. And that becomes more important than the actual anything else, right? So you have to be like, I'm the superior person. I'm more real. I have a glimpse of truth that other people do not.
Yeah. It's, that makes me think of like because this line right here touches on what you basically did, which is if you make a show of discomfort when you break the status quo by breaking the normie barrier to invoke a real discussion. You basically showed a little bit of discomfort by saying, I do not fucking care about this. And then the sort of reaction to that is like, the sports ball, you know?
Yeah. When it's like, this is how it should, like, if somebody's like, comes up to you and are like, the Holocaust didn't happen, I'm going to be like, you're fucking wrong. That's like, but then that's
discussion, dog.
a way to a defense mechanism to be like, well, you're just an NPC because you don't want to have a discussion. And it's like, it's not a fucking discussion.
Yeah. And that is then to be seen as like, you're following groupthink. You're not challenging that, right? you're just repeating the same exact thing that everybody is saying. But why is it something that everybody is saying and that everyone believes? What is the thought to that? Because it's,
Yes. It's like, it's possible for the majority to be correct. It's possible for that to be a thing, right? Like most people in this country, most people are like fine with trans people. They're like, I think that they should be able to exist. They're maybe not like champions for them, but they're like, I don't care. They can live their life. And it's this vocal minority that has to be like, we have to take them down. They can't have it talking about this. And it's like, you're the minority, but you have to make it into this thing where everybody else is not. Yeah,
it's at the point where like you're thinking about it a little too much, more than anybody is thinking about it.
Since when have you cared about high school girls? Yeah. When was that ever a concern? You don't give a shit. It's just, I mean, the culture war shit that is going on in this country is really just fucking, it's exhausting, I think.
It's now that trans people cannot play chess.
I saw that, and I mean, like, are we surprised that chess dudes are, like, regressive in their beliefs?
Just please stick to the plug that's in your behind and let it ring through and give you a good time.
I know cool people that play chess. No offense to people that like chess, but... I have friends that play chess, okay? But come on. We watched the fucking Queen's Gambit. It's the same shit. They were like, oh my god, it's a woman playing chess.
Women?
No.
And she's hot?
And now it's like, a broader definition of women playing chess. No!
No! What do you mean women are playing?
Yeah.
That kind of
thing. So, I mean, the NPC thing is definitely, it's a concerning trend. I think that definitely... It's also like, I think I discussed this. I think I mentioned NPCs in one other episode. I can't remember which one, but like that sometimes you're not owed. I think that people will sometimes in social interactions feel like you're owed all of somebody. And I don't think that's true. I don't think that if you're talking to like a waitress or a cashier or something like that, and they are very short with you or court with you, that is not something you are owed. You are not owed all of this person. The fact that they said, oh, how was your day? Oh, it was nice. How was yours? That doesn't make them an NPC. They're a person. It's just they're not fully like, and they don't have to fully engage. They're a fucking work. They're doing their fucking job.
Yeah, and that is, and it's like, oh, they repeat that the whole day. It's the easiest conversation to have. 0 effort. It's small talk. Small talk happens because
that's again back to the thing about being normal as like a way to like live a life as a human. So it's easier. I'm not like there's shit where like it's also like at work. Like I'm not gonna have conversations about weird shit at work necessarily. I'm not gonna talk about them showing fucking Bush in 50 Shades of Grey. This is you have different aspects of your life that you put different aspects of yourself into.
Yeah, it's just so bizarre. It's like. It's such an easy thing to do, so I'm going to keep doing it. I have to follow this. It's like the script of life, I guess. You don't, and it's like sometimes, at times, you do want to put yourself forward as like when you're doing a job interview. There's a unique part of you, but there's still a script that you have to follow. That you kind of go through it. Like everyone might end up saying the same thing, but this is to get hired, to get this job. You're not going to go in there and be like, huzzah, tazai, da 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 da. You still have to kind of like convince them of your normality, get in there, and then maybe do a little bit of a little weirdness once you get into that, depending on the space that you're in. But it's just like fitting in kind of sucks. Having to do it kind of sucks. But you can see why there's kind of a need for it in order to get things done, go through life as smoothly as possible without someone going, what the fuck are you doing? You're just like, I'm just fucking doing it, dog.
There's a certain amount of kind of just like adherence to the fucking rules that we expect from people participating in society. We expect that you're going to get on the bus and sit quietly. That's kind of like how that works. The subway, you get on there, there's a bit of the social contract. It doesn't make you the main character.
Everyone just wants to fucking go.
Everybody has had the disruptive thought of like, what if I just sang on the subway? And it's like, not everybody does it, and that's perfectly fine. That's ideal that nobody's singing on the public transit.
Yeah, you want to make it as easy for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like I think that
even if you don't want to make it easy for other people, right?
When you're a person in society, we owe a certain amount of kind of like respect to other people. And if your whole bit is going up to people and being like, look at this fucking NPC, they don't know how to react when I'm coming at them with like the realness. It's like, why would they? they weren't ready for this interaction.
Yeah.
You sprung shit on them. This is like you're basically bullying this person. That's what you're doing. Like, this person is just trying to mind their own business. They're going to work. Who the fuck knows what's going on with this person? You don't have the right. You shouldn't have like the ability to be like, you're not a full person because you didn't play the game with me when I was playing a game that you didn't know you were even playing.
And I wonder of the day that like someone actually does that to someone who is willing to like, one, get the fuck out of my face. If you don't, like your reaction to that then is like, well, I'm just playing a game.
Yeah.
That person now who's attempting to beat the shit out of you is the main character, and you are now just going to be another thing on. It's just so.
Don't hit me! Don't hit me! Oh, it sounds like an NPC talking. Sounds like a real NPC thing. Please stop! Violence is not the answer.
Exactly. It's just like, I don't know. It even makes me think of like the public space and just existing, right? Like, you see those people who are like, I just saw this family. They look so cute. I'm going to post it on TikTok kind of thing now. And it's just like, you kind of think of every moment in your life now when you're out doing something like, do I look like I'm just going through the fucking motions when I am, but I don't want other people to notice that I'm just fucking going through the goddamn motions.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to be on all the time. Like, that's another thing is like, people want to just be able to like go about their life. Like, yeah, I look like shit. I'm at a grocery store. It's 10:30 in the morning. I'm not looking my best.
That should be another human contract thing that like, if you walk into a Target, a Walmart, a fucking 99 Ranch, fucking H Mart, you're not there to fucking, I'm not here to film content. I'm here to fucking grab a bunch of spring onion and fucking
the NPC side
paper and
like it's a
get
weird
out. I'm not here to,
because I think it's like, it's cool when people are like I love a harmless person.
Yes,
I love somebody that is unapologetically themselves and is like living their life on their own. But I don't think that makes them more of a human. It's just they're a person. They're another person. That's the thing is like, no matter how fucking unique you are or you think you are, you're still just another person at the end of the day. We're all just still people.
And partially, I'm like, as much as I look the way I am, I know someone was like, I put on the same exact outfit. I have the same hair configuration. It's like, you think about yourself, like the people in your family, if you look really similar, I look like my mom when she was younger. I look like my brother. You superimpose our faces together. It's the same exact thing. I'm like, why can't that happen to people who aren't related to me?
Yeah. I mean, there's, so many ways a human face kind of goes together. There's like, everybody kind of has like some people that look like them out there.
If I'm recycled as a person, that's fine. I'm not going to exist.
Yeah. I mean, it's, also it's like, like it doesn't matter how unique you are. We're all going to the same place at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, we all shit, pay some sort of tax, and then die.
Yeah. No, but we die, and that's it.
That's it.
But
oh my god, so sorry if we ruined your
life is
Hey guys,
let's quote the kids in the hall. Life is short, life is shit, and then you die.
Let me okay, let's think of something funny.
This episode was written and produced by Ben and JD. For all our sources, please head to the website in the description below. Don't mind JD, they are being attacked by a bug. If you would like to reach out with a comment, suggestion, or share an experience with one of our topics today, be that slipping through time or being called an NPC, send us a message at icecreamyoumeme@gmail.com. All the music for the podcast is provided by Yager Frank. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.